रति सुख सारे गतमभिसारे रति सुख सारे गतमभिसारे मदन मनोहर वेशम्.
नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्. योगोशतं कनकशृङ्गमयं ददाति विप्राय वेदविदुषे च बहुश्रुताय. पुण्यां च भारतकथां शृणुयांश्च नित्यं तुल्यं भवति तस्य च तस्य चैव. We are now going to commence with the second subject of this course, which is critical analysis of Mahabharata. Mahabharata has the pride of being one of the longest epics of this world, inclusive of Harivamsha, which is also an integral part to Mahabharata. We can roughly estimate that there are over 1 lakh verses to this work. In the previous course of critical analysis of Rāmāyana, we had dealt with about 24,000 verses, and this is roughly 4 times it. And if we go by the recensions of Mahabharata from the other quarters, we can say that we also have about 1,25,000 verses. So it varies between 1 lakh and 1,25,000. In whichever case, this is a very long epic, long itihasa. So one itihasa was Rāmāyana, the other itihasa is Sri Mahabharatam. Mahabharata is often revered as the 5th Veda. In Sanatana Dharma, in the Indian civilization, we have the 4 Vedas: Rig, Yajuhu, Sama, Atharva. Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, Atharva Veda. But the quintessence of the first 4 Vedas is housed in Mahabharata, is what our Purvacharyas have said. So in Mahabharata, we have Vyasacharya, who is also known as Krishna Dvaipayana, who forms an integral part of it. He is one of the most important characters because through him, Ambika and Ambalika and the maid servant to them, they all have children as Dhritarashtra, Pandu and Vidura. On the other hand, Vyasacharya is also the person who has compiled and composed Mahabharata. So he is an integral part of the work as much as he is a composer and a compiler of this work. While dealing with Mahabharata, again we are going to take up characters. Let us take the first character, a character who is who has long lived in this entire Mahabharata, who is Bhishmacharya. Bhishma was initially born to Shantanu and Ganga. He learnt Vedās and the Vedangas from Vasishtha, while he learnt the Shastras from Shukra and Brihaspati. Shukracharya was the Kulaguru of the Asuras, Brihaspati was that of Suras or Devas. He learned from the both of them, so he got the best of both worlds. A large part of his childhood and boyhood and even adolescence he spent with his mother, Ganga. He was not with his father. There is one very small incident which marks the union of the son and the father, Shantanu and Bhishma. That is when the flows of Ganga were barricaded by a huge shield of arrows, and to see his wife, who was incidentally the river. There is an Ati Devata for the river. So here we have Shantanu, who was surprised, he was looking, who is that boy who has stopped? And there he finds Devavrata, and while he wants to wage a war with him, that is when Ganga stops him, saying that this is after all your son. So Shantanu escorts his son to his palace in Hastinapuram, and the father and the son, they enjoy a very good relationship. But over a period of time, he notices his father in a very melancholic state, very sad. He gauges from the report given by his father's driver that his father was interested in marrying the daughter of the chief to all fishermen. But the fisherman chief had laid a condition that your son, O king, your son Devavrata still exists. He will become the next king. And if he is married soon, his children will become the king. So my daughter, however married to you, she may produce children, but they will never become kings or queens. Listening to this, Devavrata goes to the hermitage, the place where they lived, and he promises, O chief of this fisherman folk, from today onwards, I shall live the life of a celibate, a brahmachari. I shall practice brahmacharyam from today. Idam me vratamadasva satyam satyavatam vara naiva jato navajata idrusham vaktumutsahet yosyam janishyate putraha Sano Raja Bhavishyati Adyaf Prabhriti Medasha Brahmacharyam Bhavishyati Aputrasyapi Me Loka Bhavishyantyan Rakshaya Divi. I promise from today onwards I will be a brahmachari. Since I will be a brahmachari, of course I will not be married. See, he says from today. Of course, there are researchers who debate about that. It is said that he was to get married. He was engaged. He had every ritual of his marriage was done, but he refrained from a relationship with his wife because he had promised for the sake of his father. So from that day onwards, he wanted to be a brahmachari. So he also promised that of course I will not have children. So neither me nor my children, they will have any right on the throne. So that very moment, it is said in Mahabharata that all the celestials got together and said that there has never been a person in the past who has made such a strong, open vow, pledge. So to that man who has done this pledge, we call him Bhishma. Tato antariksha apsaraso deva sarishi gananstada abhyavarshanta kusumair bhishmoyam iti cha abruvan bhishmo ayam. He will be called Bhishma. So Bhishma, even at the start of his career, had made such a vow and he showered love. There were situations where Bhishma could have handled the situation much better. For instance, through his stepmother, Satyavati, his father produced children like Chitrangada, Vichitravirya. When he realized that Chitrangada died early and Vichitravirya was again not that active, to continue the lineage in Hastinapura, he wanted to get Vichitravirya married. That is when he understands that the king of Kashi was organizing a Swayamvara for his three daughters, Amba, Ambika and Ambalika. So he goes to that assembly and he abducts all the three princesses. Of course, people had this question. Bhishma had promised that he will never marry. Look, he is kidnapping. They never understood that he was kidnapping it for his half brothers. He brought them, and on the way Amba conveyed that I am in love with another king, so let me go to him. I will not be able to marry your brother. So he was magnanimous. He said, okay, you go. And he brought Ambika and Ambalika to Hastinapura and got them married to Vichitravirya. On the other hand, Amba, who went seeking asylum at the feet of the person whom she loved, that man said, you have already been kidnapped by Bhishma, so you go and ask him if he is ready to marry you. So she comes back and he says that I am Bhishma. I got the name Bhishma because I have made the vow of not marrying. So she got rejected, dejected. So she went and prayed to Shiva. Shiva said, the next birth you will be born as a person who can take on Bhishma. She couldn't wait. She brought Parashurama to fight Bhishma. Parashurama was incidentally also the guru to Bhishma. She made the guru and the Sishya fight. Again, she went and prayed to Lord Subramanya. Subramanya said, okay, I will give you a garland. The person who adorns this garland will be the person who can take on Bhishma. Every king, every prince rejected. Then she hung the garland on the gates of Drupada Maharaja's Rajyam. Then she was herself born as the daughter to the king. Then she adorned herself with that garland. The father was perplexed that she could be killed by Bhishma. He sent that daughter into the woods. There she partially became a man and then retained her womanhood. So she became a eunuch. So that was Shikhandi, and Shikhandi was the one who was responsible for Bhishma's death. So Bhishma had laid the very foundation of his own death while he abducted Amba, Ambika and Ambalika. Probably he could have handled that situation better, where he could have spoken to the king and said that Hastinapura is such a Rajya, such a big Rajya, wealthiest, very strong, send your girls, we will get them married. There were better ways of handling it. Maybe this was how it was meant to be, and Bhishma ended up becoming the root cause of his own death by instilling that avengeful attitude in the mind of Shikhandi. So there is another situation. For example, Vichitravirya was dead, then Vyasa was brought to produce children through Ambika and Ambalika and the maid servant to them. They had Dhritarashtra, Pandu and Vidura. Dhritarashtra was the eldest. He should have become the king, but he was handicapped. He couldn't see. Well, we can counter that there are people in this world who can't see and who have done wonders. In those days, since it was a large kingdom where you had a threat from all sides, you needed a king largely who was very, very intelligent. At the same time, there was no training program to get a handicapped king rule the region. So Pandu had to take the ownership. That is when Pandu was to get married. Before that, Dhritarashtra was to get married. So again, Bhishma goes to the Gandhara Desham and he seeks the princess Gandhari for the blind brother king that he has got, who is Dhritarashtra. Again, this instills a dislike, a disgust in the minds of Shakuni, who feels that Bhishma has betrayed. So he accompanies his sister, and Shakuni becomes the mastermind for most of the plots. So again, Bhishma could have stopped himself from approaching the king, or probably could have first said that Dhritarashtra is a blind person, then I see. He did ask for Gandhari and then disclosed that he was blind. So this kind of a mishandling could have been avoided. Not that everything what Bhishma did was wrong, but when we critically analyze, we feel this was also a cause for Shakuni's interference in the internal affairs, the political matters of Hastinapura. There is one positive aspect. Bhishma was extremely devoted to Krishna. When the Rajasuya was performed by Yudhishtira, there was a question, because the assembly hall was filled with the best of the kings from the best of the regions. It also had Duryodhana, Dushasana, Karna. It had Drupada, the best of the kings. And there was of course Bhishma. Now came the question, whom should Yudhishtira offer his first respects to? Everybody thought Bhishma would be the fit person. But Bhishma stands up and says, Yesha hyesham samastanam tejobala parakramaihi madhye tapanni vabhati jyotishamiva bhaskaraha. Here when you have the sun which adorns and spells his radiance throughout the sabha like Krishna, how should this question even arise? Yudhishtira, pay your first obeisances, pranamams to Krishna. So Bhishma's devotion and love for Krishna was beyond limits. Now we will come to another important portion, which of course is a big turning point in Mahabharata. There are a few other turning points, but this changed the course of Mahabharata. That was the injustice and humiliation that was meted to Draupadi. She was in her periods, and while she was dragged to the Sabha Mantapam, the assembly hall, she said, "Why am I being dragged?" Initially, Duryodhana had dispatched Pratikraman, one assistant, who said, "Mata, you've been lost in the pawning process while the game of dice was being played." She said, "Did Yudhishtira lose himself first and then pawn me and lose me, or he lost me first and then lost himself?" To such legally and logically prone questions, Duryodhana did not want to give an answer. He asked Dushyasana to pull her to the court. She was in her periods. That is when she goes in the presence of Bhishma and asks, "Hey Bhishma, you are the eldest of the lot here. You have seen so many generations, you have seen so many wars, you have seen so many situations that could cause dharma sankatam to you. You do not know which is the dharmam that needs to be followed. You tell me, should a wife be treated as a possession or a property where the husband has the right to pawn her in the game of dice? Is this allowed? Let's assume you say it is allowed. Then shouldn't he pawn me first and then lose himself when he has lost himself? And if he believes that I am a part of him, then he has no right to pawn me separately. Whichever is the case, don't you feel this is illogical and unethical?" Bhishma at that point in time should have taken the side of Draupadi, because she is the daughter-in-law to their family. She is the queen of Indraprastha. She is the daughter of somebody else. Daughter-in-law, agreed, daughter of somebody else. He could have absolutely stood for Draupadi's sake and could have fought her case. But he said, "See, I'm caught in a dilemma. Yes, I do agree that a wife is a possession of the husband, but this should have not been done. I do not know what to do." So at that point in time, he did not fight for Draupadi. Bhishma, though he was very well educated, qualified, learned the best of archery, Shastra Jnanam from the best of the gurus, like Vasishtha, Shukracharya, Brihaspati. He has gone to the best of the universities. But in such a situation, he couldn't stand for Draupadi's sake when she was the most vulnerable. She was in her periods, she was weak, she was meek. He didn't stand for her. So, though Bhishma is respected, we keep telling in Vishnu Sahasranama, Bhishma uvacha. So we do offer our respects to Bhishma. He is one of the greatest devotees. But as a character, when we analyze, he could have been more justful and honest towards himself and to Draupadi. Is there any other situation where where we see a different aspect of Bhishma? That was during the war. Prior to the war, Bhishma listens to what Krishna has said. Krishna had promised Duryodhana that I shall give you my entire army. You can use my entire army, because Krishna's son was married to Duryodhana's daughter. So they were samandhis or samadhis. So they were relatives in one way. So he had given away his entire battalion to fight from the side of Kauravas. Duryodhana also had an addendum. He said, you should not fight in the war. You have given me your army, but you should not fight. You may go to Pandava's side, that's your choice, but you cannot fight. You cannot lift any weapon. So Krishna promised, I will never ever touch a weapon. So this news was heard by Bhishma, and Bhishma said, of course, this is what happens between the Lord and the devotee. There's a healthy competition. He said, I will make Krishna lift the weapon. So this was a huge debate at that point in time. Who is going to win? The first 10 days of the war was wasted because Bhishma was a giant. Until and unless the commander-in-chief of the Kauravas, who was Bhishma, is made to fall on the ground, there was no breaking of that war. And here we had Arjuna, Yatra Partho Dhanurdharaha, who was fighting Bhishma. So the first 10 days, Krishna, who was a charioteer to Arjuna, was noticing Bhishma and Arjuna fighting but with no vigor. He was hitting one arrow, he was hitting an antidote to it. There was no end. So Krishna got angry. He jumped from his chariot. He saw a broken wheel lying on the ground of a chariot. He took that wheel, swirled it like a Sudarshana chakra, and started running towards Bhishma to hurl it. That is when Bhishma, he throws all his weapons down, the quiver of arrows, the bow, the spear, everything down, and he says, I was waiting for this opportunity, Krishna. Look at you, Krishna. You had promised that I will not lift the weapon. You knew that I had promised that I will make you lift the weapon. Just for the sake of your devotee like me winning the betting game, you have lifted the weapon. Where will I find such a merciful Lord? So on the battlefield, he composes a stuti on Krishna. Tribhuvana kamanam tamala varnam ravikara gauravambaram dadhane vapuralaka kulavritananabjam vijaya sakhe ratirastu mena vadya. Vijaya sakhe, the friend to Vijaya, Arjuna, hey Krishna, come towards me. He describes the external characteristics of Krishna. This is called Bhishma Stuti. Nevertheless, Bhishma was extremely devoted to Krishna, so that devotion goes to another level. That is when Arjuna comes and says, stop it Krishna, I do not want you to fail in your pledge. I will fight my Bhishmacharya. And then with Krishna's guidance, he brings Shikhandi. Since Shikhandi was a eunuch and Bhishma was a celibate who had promised to never fight a woman as well, saw the womanhood in Shikhandi and refused to fight in that direction. That is when Arjuna started aiming arrows at Bhishma and put him to a bed of arrows. So we come across Bhishmacharya as a great devotee of Krishna, as a wonderful well-wisher of the Pandavas, but for the sake of the promise made to his ancestors that he will always see Hastinapura as his very own child, will always be its guardian, its legal advisor, was forced to always side the Kauravas and always fight for their sake. So he couldn't get rid of them. This was again a big dharma sankatam for him. He couldn't get rid of them. And this cost him his life. And of course, he departed, the Atma from his body departed only when he knew and was rest assured that Hastinapura was in the safe hands of Yudhishtira. Bhishmacharya, his devotion comes to us in the form of a beautiful work called as a Vishnu Sahasranamam. Vishnu Sahasranamam is regarded as one of the 5 gems that is seen in Mahabharata. Mahabharata is said by our preceptors and commentators to house 5 gems in it. Of course, every verse is a gem. There are 5 large gems. One is Yaksha Prashnam. Second is Viduraniti. Third is Sanat Sujatiyam. Fourth is Bhagavad Gita. Fifth is Vishnu Sahasranama. These are the 5 gems housed in Pancharatnam, housed in Mahabharatam. Of the 5, the last 2, which is Bhagavad Gita and Vishnu Sahasranamam, were declared during the war and after the war. So, war field was a place. So, Bhagavad Gita was spoken on the first day of the war. Vishnu Sahasranamam happens after the war. Bhagavad Gita is rendered by the Lord himself. That is why every time Krishna speaks, we don't say Krishna spoke. We say Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. Bhagavan, the one who is endowed with the 6 attributes called Jnana Bala, Aishwarya, Virya, Shakti, Tejas. So, the one who is endowed with the 6 qualities, Bhaga, Shada iti Rinam. So, the one who has got 6 qualities, Bhagavan, he spoke. So, Bhagavad Gita is the song of the Lord, he spoke. But Vishnu Sahasranamam is an ode to the Lord spoken by his devotee. So, Bhagavan speaks in Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavata means the devotee speaks in Vishnu Sahasranama. There it is about the ways to reach him. Here it's more about his simple names that can help us experience and realize him. So Vishnu Sahasranamam comes at a juncture where Bhishmacharya was lying on a bed of arrows. Bhishma incidentally had this boon of letting go of his Jivatma from the material body only and when he desires. Of course, we don't have such a boon. The world will be a catastrophe or a disaster, or will be in pandemonium if everybody were told you can choose to die only when you wish. Suppose I wish I have to die now, I have to wish. I suppose I wish I have to live for another 200 years, I'll have to stay in this world for 200 years. The world will be a big disaster. But Bhishma was a big exception, he had that. So he was able to retain his life despite being on the bed of arrows. It is said that he was waiting for the right moment, which is Uttarayanam. So that's what he was waiting for, is what we understand from our commentaries. Yudhishtira goes to Krishna and asks a few doubts. Krishna tells, see, it is not that I won't clear your doubts, or I won't be able to clear your doubts, or I don't want to clear your doubts. But do understand that when there are great devotees like Bhishma, you should go seek advice from them, be it Rajya Dharma, Moksha Dharma, whatever it is, go and ask him. If he were to die, Yudhishtira, if Bhishma were to die, Jnaninaha alpi bhavanti. There will be scarcity of people for wisdom, Krishna tells in those days. That is when Yudhishthira goes, seeks doubts, gets them cleared, and that is when he asks, hey Bhishmacharya, can you tell me the answers to these questions? I have told you at the commencement of this course, Indian subcontinent, our civilization, our culture, our religion has largely believed that only through proper means of questioning will the follower develop the interest in the religion and will follow the religion. Just mere saying that these are the questions, these are the answers, you have no right to ask questions, I will kill you, God will kill you, he'll prick you, I will bomb you, is not the right way a civilization can prosper. Here we have Yudhishtira asking 6 questions, very famous ones. Yudhishtira uvacha kimekam daivatam loke kim vapyekam parayanam stuvantah kam kamarchantah prapnayurmanava shubham ko dharma sarva dharmanam bhavatah paramo matah kim japan muchyate jantur janma samsara bandhanat. 6 questions. 6 in Sanskritam is shat. Prashna is question. 6 questions is shat prashni. These are the 6 questions that he asked. Kimekam daivatam loke. Hey Bhishma, I have heard of so many people speak of so many gods. They say this is the god for wealth, that is the god for knowledge, this is the god for valor, that is the god for removing obstacles, this is the god for giving power, he is that for creation, he is for protection, he is for destruction. With so many gods around me, I am not able to conclude who is that one to whom if I pay my obeisances, it is equivalent to paying obeisances to all of them. Kim ekam daivatam loke. Kim vap ekam parayanam. Whom should I attain? Who is my destination? Stuvantah kam. Whom should I do stuti of? Whom should I praise? Kim archantaha. Kamachantaha. Whom should I offer my archana to? Ko dharmas sarvadharmanam bhavatah paramo mataha. Who is that upayam? Who is that means to me? Kim japan muchyate jantur janma samsara bandhanat. Whom should I meditate upon continuously for realization? There are 2 distinct things that Vishnu Sahasranamam tells us. There is an upayam, there is an upayam. What is upayam? Upayam in Sanskritam is means, the way, the path that I take. What is upayam? The destination. For example, if I have to travel to Jammu and Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir becomes my destination. How will I travel? I will either take my car, I will drive, or I will take a flight to Srinagar, or I will take a train. There is some mode that I use, right? That becomes upayam. So I need to use an upayam to reach the upayam. I have to be clear about both things. See, I know what is the mode, but if somebody asks me, okay, you've taken the train, where are you going to? I don't know. I can never be clueless about where I'm going to reach. On the other hand, I know where I'm going to reach, but I don't take. I know this train is going to go to Srinagar. People say, you want to go to Srinagar, right? Yes. Get inside the train? No. So without me getting inside the train, I won't be able to reach Srinagar. Without knowing where my destination is, which is Srinagar, I will not be able to reach. So upayam and upayam. Who is that one whom I should attain, and what is the means that I have to take? So this is the entire scope in which Vishnu Sahasranamam revolves. To which Bhishma answers, Bhishma uvacha jagat prabhum devadevam anantam purushottamam stuvan nama sahasrena purusha satatothitah tameva charcha yannityam bhaktya purushamavyayam dhyayan stuvan namasyamscha yajamanas tameva cha anadinidhanam vishnum sarvaloka maheshwaram lokadhyaksham stuvan nityam sarva dukkhagito bhavet brahmanyam sarva dharmajnam lokanam kirtivardhanam lokanatham mahadbhutam sarva bhuta bhavodbhavam yesha me sarva dharmanam dharmo adhigatamo matah yad bhaktyah pundarikaksham stavairarchainaras sada paramamyo mahattejah paramamyo mahattapah paramamyo mahadbrahma paramamya parayanam pavitranam pavitramyo mangalanamscha mangalam daivatam daivatanamscha bhutanam yovyayah pita yatas sarvani bhutani bhavantyadi yugagame yasminscha pralayam yanti punareva yugakshaye tasya loka pradhanasya jagannathasya bhupate Vishno nama sahasram me shrunu papapayapaham. So he says these are the answers. Now, inquisitive about knowing more, you did talk about names, you said he has so many names, tell me them, of all of them. Bhishma says there are plenty of names to the Lord. Anything in this world that is a word indicates only him. If I say the English word T-R-E-E, tree, tree is the Lord. Why? Because if we say that God is omnipresent, is omniscient, he pervades everywhere, there can be nothing which escapes his presence. So the tree is also something that houses him. So the word tree is also something that has it in him. So there's nothing that escapes him. So everything in this world attributes itself to the presence of the Lord. But given that he is asked, tell me a few names which will help eradicate the sins that we have accrued in the past and in the present. Bhishma has to give a set of certain names. So he says, there are thousands and lakhs and crores of names, but I shall choose, pick and choose certain names that have been highly venerated by our rishis. Rishibhiv parigitani tani vakshyami bhutaye. Then he starts the 1,000 names of the Lord. These 1,000 names doesn't mean that there is no 1,001th name of the Lord. There are crores. It is infinite. But he has chosen to give only 1,000. Sahasra is 1,000. Nama is name. Sahasranamam is the 1,000 names. Vishnu Sahasranamam means the 1,000 names of Vishnu. So it begins with Vishvam, Vishnuhu, Vashatkaraha, Bhutabhavya Bhavat Prabhu, Bhutagrit, Bhutabrit, Bhavaha, Putatma. So it keeps on going till the last name, Sarva Praharanayuda Om Namayiti. There are names, many names which are repeated. For example, Govinda is the name of the Lord. It comes at least 3 or 4 times in Vishnu Sahasranama. There are many such names that keep coming again. But we need a commentator. We have Adi Shankaracharya, we have Ramanuja's Sishya called Parashara Bhatta, one in Madhva Sampradaya. They have all commented so beautifully on the 1,000 names, where we realize that there is so much of importance to these names. Summing up the essence of what Vishnu Sahasranamam was narrated by Bhishma to Yudhishtira, the commentator says these are the 6 salient features of Vishnu Sahasranamam. What are the 6 salient features? Mahabharata Saratvat. The essence, Saram, means the essence. Mahabharata Saratvat. So Vishnu Sahasranama is the essence of Mahābharatam, because Mahābharata has 1 lakh to 1,25,000 verses. Compared to that, 1,000 names are better. So these 1,000 names comprise the essence of Mahābharata. Mahabharata Saratvat. Rishibhiv Pariganataha. So the rishis, they are highly engaged in the names of the Lord, and the names that they have chosen is what we see in Vishnu Sahasranamam. Rishibhiv Pariganataha. Vedācharya Samaharat. Who is the one who has compiled all of this? Rishis may have said. The one who has compiled and bucketed the Vedas, who is called Vedavyasa or Krishna Dvaipayana, he has done this work. Vedācharya Samaharat. Bhishmotkrishtha Matatvataha. And who has recited this? None but the greatest of devotees called Bhishma. Jagat Hitatishayataha. And these names were not told for Yudhishtira's grocery store, for his groceries to get filled. No, it was not restricted to one person's welfare. It was for the welfare of this world. Had it been only for Yudhishtira, Vedavyasa would have not compiled this in his manuscript. It is made available to us. Jagat Hitatishayataha. And Gita Taikartha Kaschanaha. First salient feature was it is the essence of Mahābhārata. The last feature is it is the essence of even Bhagavad Gita. So if we read Vishnu Sahasranama, it is equivalent to reading Bhagavad Gita. It is equivalent to reading Mahābhārata. It is equivalent to reciting the names of the Lord that have been chosen by the rishis. It is for the welfare of this world. It has been narrated to us by Bhishma. It has been compiled by none but Vedācharya or Vedavyasa. So these are the features. Now these names have been distributed by Parashara Bhatta, the commentator, in certain format. He says, like how water, H2O. H2O is water, right? So for example, somebody has fallen, you need ice, an ice pack. So you need the same water in a solidified state. Suppose I need to drink, I cannot give him a glass of ice cubes. I need water in its liquid form, in its normal form. Suppose a person has cold, sore throat. I will boil the water and give the same liquid water in a heated state. Suppose the person wants to undergo a facial, he wants to make his breathing much more easier. So I need to send hot vapors to his face. So that is in the gaseous state. So solid, liquid and gaseous state. So the 3 states for the same vastu. Likewise, we also have the Lord making himself accessible to us in various forms. In one form, in one state, he is in that abode of Vaikuntha, which Shastras say, where once the Jivatma which is housed in our body goes to that abode, there is no return. You can buy only an onward journey, you can never buy a return journey. So that's his original abode, Para state, that is called Para. That state is called Para. There is another state where people can go visit him, like Lord Shiva, Brahma, they all go visit him and come back. That is called Vyuha state. That is a state from which he manages creation, protection, destruction, dissolution as Vasudeva, Aniruddha, Sankarshana, Pradyumna. That's called Vyuha. First state is Para, second is Vyuha. Third is that state where he comes over to the earth just like us, lives like us. His life itself becomes a huge lesson for us and goes back. So this process of coming, descending and ascending, avataram and bhavataram, this process where he retains as Rama, Krishna and so on, is called as Vibhava, the third state. The fourth is a state which he is always there within us as Antaryami, as a witness to everything. So that is Antaryami or Harda, that's the fourth state. Fifth is a state where he comes into temples. See, in temples he comes, he descends and he has no plans of going back. So it's called Archa. These are the 5 states. So the names of Vishnu Sahasranama have been compiled and commented upon based on these 5 states. Let's take 2 names for example, which is Vishwam and Vishnu. What does Vishwam mean? Vishwam means the one who has got all the auspicious attributes in him. Let's take we the human beings. I can speak decently well. I can write decently well. Do I know to swim? No. So if there are 10 skills, I know 2, I do not know 8. Some of you who are listening may know 8, may not know 2. These are skills. Likewise are qualities. I may get angry very quickly. There are people who never get angry at all. There are people who are extremely generous. There are people who are very stingy. So we as human beings will always expect the best of qualities in the other person whom we see. Whether we have it in us or not, we want the other person to have it. So here we have the Lord who is a repository, a treasure house of all good qualities. So everything is in that one. So all that you know of good is in that one. So he is Vishwam. He is indicated by the name Vishwam. So he is called Vishwaya Namaha. This is how you do Archana. So he is the one who has everything in him, all in one. Now let's take this kurta for example. Where is he in this kurta? He is within every small particle of this kurta. Okay, beyond this kurta is my body. Is he within my body? Yes. Is he within you, the listener? Yes. So he is the one who has pervaded in all. So all the good qualities rest in that one. The same one is the one who has pervaded all in one. So he is called Vishwam. He is the one who has pervaded in all. So he is called Vishnu. The first name is Vishwaya Namaha. Second name is Vishnave Namaha. Is he the one who controls us from the within? Not exactly control. He has given us a lot of independence, but still has some small control over us. So this partial controller who stays within us is called Vashatkaraha. So Vishwam, Vishnu, Vashatkaraha. Maybe he is the controller in us today. Yesterday he was not the controller. Because this is how the world is, right? I see a very good shopping complex near my house. This has been there for the last 2 months. Somebody who has lived for years together next to me, who has gone abroad and who returns, says, oh, while I lived, this shopping complex didn't exist. True. While they lived, the shopping complex didn't exist. So in the past it didn't exist. It has come only recently. I am not sure whether this shopping complex will stay just like this in the future. So probably he is Vishwam, Vishnu, Vashatkaraha, but for till date. I do not know about tomorrow. No. He is the controller in the past, in the present and in the future. Bhuta Bhavya Bhavat Prabhu. So the name, look at the name. It's a very long name. So if you want to name someone, you can call him Bhuta Bhavya Bhavat Prabhu. So these are the names. Of course, Bhishmacharya narrated these names. But what is the meaning of each of these names has been explained so beautifully by our commentators. There is one name which says Ajaha. Ajaha means a goat. Ajaha also means the one who is unborn. The one who has never taken a birth is called Ajaha. You know what does Ajaha mean in the context of Vishnu Sahasranamam? There is one line, Ajaha Durmarshanaha Shasta Vishrutatma Surariha. What does Ajaha mean? The commentator says Ajaha means Lord Nrisimha. We will be discussing this in another course. Why Nrisimha? Because he emerged out of a pillar. So he was born of a pillar. Again comes the doubt, what does Ajaha mean? The one who is unborn, who is never born. But what did I say? Narasimha was born. So if I say Nrisimha is born and the word Ajaha indicates him, isn't it an oxymoron? Ajaha means the one who is unborn and it indicates Nrisimha who was born of a pillar. No, it still indicates Nrisimha because Ajaha here has to be interpreted as the one who is born unlike others. We human beings, where are we born from? We are born from our mothers. The amniotic sac breaks, the water comes out, the doctor takes us out of our mother's uterus either through a normal delivery or through a cesarean. So we are born of a mother, be it a chick. It is incubated in an egg and the egg cracks and that's how it comes. There is to some extent the role of a mother which is very involved. So this is how we say he is unborn. But he was born of a pillar. Absolutely yes. Tell me any other person who says, yes, I was born of a pillar. You can never be born out of a pillar. So his birth existed unlike us. So Ajaha means the one who was born unlike us. So every name has a beautiful interpretation. Let's take another name, Keshavaha. You must have heard of this name Keshav, right? So Keshavaha is the name of the Lord. There are various interpretations to it. Keshavaha, Keshi Hantaraha. There was a demon called Keshi. The one who has killed or annihilated that demon is called Keshavaha. Keshavaha also means the one who has got nice Kesham. Kesham means nice locks of hair. See, in those days, men also had long hair. And curly hair was very, very characteristic of Indian men and women. So they would let the hair be curly. So the one with beautiful hair locks, Chikuram, Bahulam, Veralam, Brahmaram, Mrudulam, Vachanam. So this is how our poets describe. So he had beautiful locks of hair. So he's called Keshavaha. There is a beautiful interpretation given by the commentators to Vishnu Sahasranamam who state, Kaha, the letter Ka in Sanskrit, when accompanied by two dots in Sanskrit, sounds like Kaha. Kaha in Sanskrit means Brahma. We know Brahma, right? Who's often deemed as the partial creator. So Brahma is referred to by the letter Kaha. Isha. Isha means the one who controls. So the one who controls is called Ishvara. So Lord Shiva is referred to as Isha. So in my body, what are the parts that I have? I have a esophagus, I have the windpipe, I have my stomach, I have my liver, I have a diaphragm, I have a heart, I have a rib cage, I have my lungs, I have my islets of Langerhans, I have my gallbladder, I have my pancreas, small intestine, large intestine, kidneys. So these are the parts of my body. So all this comprises my body. Not one alone comprises my body. All put together comprises of my body. So my body comprises of all this. So the one whose body comprises of Brahma. What did I say of Brahma? Kaha. What did I say of Shiva? Isha. So the one whose body comprises of Brahma, who is Kaha, and Lord Shiva, who is Isha, put together is called Keshava. Kaha is Brahma, Isha is Shiva, Kaha plus Isha becomes Keshava. So this name Keshava has been interpreted so beautifully. So every name has a meaning to it. Let's take the last of the names. When the last few names come, Bhishmacharya tells Yudhishtira, he is the one who upholds all the weapons to protect devotees like us. Shankhabran, Shankhabran means one who holds a shankha called Panchajanya, the conch. Nandaki, the one who holds a sword called as Nandakam. Chakri, the one who has the discus called Sudarshana. Sharanga Dhanva, the one who holds the bow, handles the bow called Sharanga. Shankhabran, Nandaki, Chakri, Sharanga Dhanva, Gadadharaha. Gadadharaha means one who has the mace called Kaumodaki. So after mentioning all this, Bhishmacharya concludes his Vishnu Sahasranama with the 1000th name. As he is describing the upholder of weapons, he says, the one who is Sarva Praharana Yudha. So this is the name of the Lord. The last name in Vishnu Sahasranama is Sarva Praharana Yudha. What does that mean? Shankaracharya gives a beautiful interpretation. It seems the Lord was bored of using Sudarshana, the Chakram, the Shankam, the discus, the conch, the sword, the bow, the quiver of arrows and every possible weapon. He wanted to be innovative. So he thought of his nails as weapons and used the nails as weapons. Sarva Praharana Yudha. So these are the names that have been enlisted by Bhishmacharya for the sake of Yudhishtira. Using him as the cause, he has given us. So if Bhishma as a character we have analyzed from the start, this he had done right, this he could have done like this. One of the biggest contributions to Sanatana Dharma, to the Indian civilization, is his compilation of Vishnu Sahasranama when Yudhishtira asked him those questions. So of course, there are a lot of shlokas which have been appended to the text of Vishnu Sahasranama as to if you recite Vishnu Sahasranama, what will be the benefit. Dharmarthi prapniyat dharmam, artharthi cha artham apniyat, kamana vapniyat kami, prajarthi chapniyat prajam. If you desire children, you will get children. If you desire good wealth, you will get good wealth. If you want to secure good grades in your school, write Vishnu Sahas, study Vishnu Sahasranama. So everything has a benefit. And of course, there has been a conversation. There are some doubts asked by Goddess Parvati. Shiva replies Parvatyovacha. Then there is a reply given by Lord Shiva, Ishvarovacha. Same is the case with Vaishampayana Uvacha. Same is the case with Brahma Uvacha. So Brahma gives an answer. There is a question which is posed by Arjuna. Then Krishna replies. So all this is an addition, an appendix. But the central portion of Vishnu Sahasranamam begins with Vishvam Vishnuhu till Sarva Praharanayuda. So this is the biggest contribution that we can think of Bhishmacharya. And Vishnu Sahasranama is widely popular in this world, not for the sake of only giving us some positivity. You will be aware, we will be taking a different course called as Ayurveda. There we will discuss. Ayurveda as a science, as a medical science, has been practiced in India, has been researched in India for millenniums. In fact, in Rāmāyana, we come across Ayurveda, the word, when Dhanvantari gets out of the oceanic waters. Ayurveda believes that you can seek remedy, solution, and even prevention to a lot of ailments through natural products. There are herbs, there are plants, there are leaves, there are flowers, there are fruits, there are seeds that the nature has blessed us with that has the efficacy to remove ailments that we suffer from. But of course, we should know what removes which ailment. Ayurveda as a science tells at the end that do whatever you can. If things don't work the way that you have desired, recite Vishnu Sahasranama thrice. So, as much as we critically analyze Mahabharata, we also need to understand that there is some amount of efficacy which is being proven in the recitation of our stotras, which tells that this stotra is going to give you this benefit. A counter question: should I recite something for the benefits, for the sake of benefits? Not necessarily, but there's no harm in seeking a benefit. I want good health, I pray to the Lord. I want some wealth to maintain myself and my family and help the society. There's nothing wrong in asking. So, Vishnu Sahasranama is deemed as a panacea for most of our worldly, material and health problems. So, Bhishmacharya we pay our obeisances to, who has given us this beautiful work and who has blessed us with Vishnu Sahasranama, which we can recite day in and day out. What has made Vishnu Sahasranamam even more enjoyable is the commentary by majorly three acharyas, Adi Shankara, Parashara Bhatta and an acharya of the Madhva Sampradaya, who have commented upon each name with such fervor and given it to us. So, if at all some of you have been listening to this, I would recommend, whenever you have time, learn to recite Vishnu Sahasranama, and as and when possible, if time permits, also associate your reading process and learning process with knowing the meanings of those names. Not a necessity, but knowing the meaning will always help you realize and enjoy the work with better fervor. But as a civilization that has believed in memorizing, I would still urge you all to make use of your time and learn Vishnu Sahasranama. Namaste.